Hello, well, it's still a British bank holiday and the weather's still dreadful, so I thought I'd get on and keep recording my videos. Now this one is going to look at my home recording space and my home recording gear. It's something I think I said I would do 4 or 5 years ago, so I've got around to it eventually. So this is my recording space. It's an attic room at the top of my house. I've been here about 11 years. It's long, thin, sloping roof. It's only really tall enough for me to walk in the middle of it. And when I moved here, it seemed like a good space to work from, and also to do music from. But it needed a bit of work doing on it to make it a proper, decent recording space. Didn't cost me a lot of money to do that, but I know a lot of people are interested in it. So I'm going to have a look at that, and I'm going to describe you the gear that I use to record with. And some of it is the gear that I use now, which I've built up over time. But I'm going to look at more affordable options that I used when I started. And then I'm going to end up by looking at some even cheaper affordable options that still offer you great sound. So this is my space. I do everything in here. I work here. I do in another life. I do quite a lot of podcast recording here and voiceovers. That works well here. I listen to a lot of music here as well. So just a couple of selections of the CDs that I listen to now. Richard Knott, one of our own. Long story short, that will just stop him complaining that I never mention it. Great guitar playing, great songwriting, great singing. And this is Phil Hare's new album, A Stranger I Came, I think. Phil also crops up on videos. So let's have a look at my space. Oh, by the way, you've noticed the blue jumper's gone and this black sweatshirt has come on. And if you think actually his breakfast is all over the front of it, you're probably right. So but don't let that put you off. So space. On the back wall, and on the sides of the walls and on the roof, I've got some acoustic panelling. Now, when I moved in here, this space was incredibly reverberant. You couldn't really use it for recording, unless you really close mic too much, which gives problems with overemphasizing bass and picking up string noise and stuff on the guitar. So I had to treat it in some way. Now I know a lot of people are quite interested in this, so I rang up one of the producers of these acoustic tiles, and all of these companies offer bespoke services. Consultancy services. You can buy set packs of stuff, or they can help you design your room. You don't need to do that for something like this. I just rang up the salesman and had a chat, and he said you don't need too much stuff. Probably just a couple of packets of acoustic panelling will do. So I got those, and I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. So this area here is this wall at the back is a solid wall, creates a lot of problems. So I put a lot of panelling on there, and panelling on the sides here and above me. So this area is quite a dead space really. But as I move back along the room, there is still panelling on the walls, but it kind of thins out a little bit. And at the back of the room, there's just 3 little tiles on the room, the wall where the door is. And my thinking of that was that, I'd be able to move from a dead sounding space to something with maybe a little bit more room feel in it as I move back in the room, and that would allow me some different options to record in. And it seems to work. If anything, it's probably a little bit too dead here, but it's nothing serious. It took me a long time to work up the courage to do it, stick these on. And in the end, I did it one night when I came back from the pub and I'd had far too much to drink. I got out the adhesive tape and I just went for it. So I don't know if you can see here, but you look at that back wall and those tiles are they're not perpendicular to the floor. But never mind, it works. So in my computer, which is running Logic, all the good DAWs are pretty functional. And if you're just starting out, If you're an Apple user, that will come with GarageBand, which is very good. Or if you're on a Windows machine, there's a free version of Pro Tools. There's a free version of Studio One from PreSonus that you can use. These are great products. There's no reason why you can't record really good music using them on here. My speakers here that I haven't mentioned yet are, I think, 12 years or so ago, they were probably very good. Alesis M1 active speakers. The great thing about speakers is that you get to know how they sound. So if I mix something here and it sounds great to me, probably when I play it elsewhere, it'll probably need the bass tweaking a bit and the treble bringing up a bit, so I can compensate for that here. But the point is, I know how those speakers sound when I take those results out into the wider world. So that's my recording setup. So let's have a look at some gear. So first off, I record my guitar using two condenser mics from Biodynamic. These are Biodynamic 930s, small condenser mics. They've got a pad there, which drummers you'd use if you were miking drummers to avoid peaks. And there's a bass roll-off, which I use because these have got an extraordinary dynamic range, and if I'm recording my guitar with them, I have to actually spend quite a bit of time EQing that out. So there's a bass roll-off on those. These are not cheap. These a pair of these comes in under £1,000. I suppose their nearest competitors will be the Rode NT5s, I think. But I've compared these to the Neumann 184s, which are much more pricey, and I think these are just as good. There's a lot of sound file comparisons on the web. You can hear. I've heard these used for choral pieces. I've used them for orchestras, drum overheads, acoustic instruments. I've used these for stereo miking and acoustic trio and quartet, and they're absolutely fantastic. So Biodynamic 930s, what I use now. You don't go out and buy these. These are the kind of things you work up to, but they're keepers. I'll be using these probably for the rest of my life. Well, a sanguine thought. Next, for vocals, I use a large-scale condenser mic. This is my mic. It's a Mojave 301 FET, designed by a guy called David Royer in the States. Chinese parts assembled in the US from a US design. These days, the quality of the Chinese stuff is very good. This is an extraordinary mic. It's about 800 quid, and is fabulous. 3 polar patterns, conventional in front of you pattern, figure of 8, which is that and nothing from the sides, which I've used for some interviews, and Omni, which takes the signal from all the way around. Great sounding mic, another lifetime investment, fantastic on vocals or voiceovers. I've used it once, I think, on a sound file. If you look at the Plucky Duck or my SoundCloud account, you'll see a recording of a song that Paul Graham wrote called, I think, One Last Time. And I recorded the single line guitar parts with that, and they sound wonderful. Big, fat, rich. It's a great mic. It's a great investment. There is a more expensive version of this, which is a tube mic, which was just pushing it a bit for me at the time, and I can always add that warmth in the computer if I need it. And there is a cheaper version of this, which is just a standard condenser. It doesn't have the figure of 8 and the other bits and pieces, which is a bit more affordable, but still great sounding. This mic also has a pad and a bass roll-off as well. So that's the mic I use for vocals and voiceovers. It's just a fabulous piece of kit. it is, I suppose, a modern designed equivalent of some of the Neumann mics, and I prefer that to the Neumann 102s, 3s, or even 87s. That's a fantastic microphone. Now, before I went mad with this stuff, let's show you what I used for a long time. This is a Rode mic. It's the Rode NT2A. It's an equivalent of that in the sense that it's got the same polar patterns, figure of 8, omni, and cardioid. Bass roll off and a pad as well. A couple of £100 this will cost you. It is a very, very good mic. Built like a tank. You can throw that around the room, and I have done, and it doesn't seem to complain. There is a simpler version of this without the polar patterns and the cutoffs, the Rode NT1, which is even more reasonably priced, which is still a stunning machine. If you're starting out wanting to buy some good, decent home equipment, it's very difficult to beat these Rode mics. These are absolutely fabulous. Put that back. My original small condensers were these things here, which are made by AKG C1000s. They've been in production for years and years. You'll see lots of comments about them on the web. Some people love them, some people hate them. I find they're incredibly versatile. They're built like tanks. This is running on phantom power at the moment, but it can run on a 9-volt battery if you don't have access to phantom power, which is really helpful. I've used them a lot if I've been playing live, blending a mic signal in with my pickup. And they work very well for that, and they work as well as the biodynamic for that. So I'll never get rid of them. I've got 2 of these, and I use them sometimes as 3rd and 4th mics for different bits and pieces. Great mics. Now, they're not as cheap as you might think. But they've been in production for so long time that you can always pick these up at a very, very good price second hand. And because they are bomb-proof, they're a pretty good purchase. So those are the AKG C1000s. So, great mics. This here, just by the way, is a mic column stand thing, which the mic usually sits above me there if I'm doing computer podcast work. I think that's made by Rode as well. If you sit and record at a desk, these are great things. Okay, so let's move down a little bit. So those are fantastic products. The expensive ones, the better value for money Rode and AKG mics. Next down in my list is this, which is a Zoom recording machine. Has a mic there. There's another mic unit that comes with it for a different kind of recording. This has 6 channels in it. Can record 24-bit 96K sound, which is absolutely fabulous. 4 XLR 1/4-inch combi sockets. Some quite interesting editing software in there as well, with compression, reverb and stuff like that. I tend not to use that. I record onto a compact disc, compact file thing, SD card, and then process it in my DAW. But the recording quality of this is really stunning. I use it sometimes with the biodynamics if I'm not recording here. For example, my kitchen has got a great acoustic for guitar and vocals. These built-in mics, though, are really, really good for the money. And in some ways, they're even better than the biodynamics for guitar because they don't have quite that pronounced bass. So I can record off this virtually no EQ needed at all to get that sounding really well. So 6 channels. You can also buy an adapter to put another 2 XLR inputs on there. So that's the Zoom H6. There is a cheaper model of this, the H4, which only has, I think, it has the same mics, and I think it has 2 XLR channels. That was the one that I wanted to buy, and I had to buy this in a rush, and the store that I used only had this in stock. So, Zoom H6, fabulous, fabulous piece of kit, and you know, that might be all you need to record at home with the built-in mics. Really, really good. I've used that a lot. I've used it on vocals, on guitars. I've used it for field recordings. It is stunningly ridiculous in terms of its quality. One thing I should say about this, if you decide to go down this route, it doesn't come with a mains lead, and there is a USB mains thing there. Don't buy an adapter. I think it's a USB-B, and it plugs into one of those, plugs you put an iPhone or your mobile phone into, and that's more than enough to give 48k phantom power on these 4 things there, which is pretty fabulous. So great piece of kit, that. But we can do better than that. This is the Zoom H2N. I don't know what the N stands for, but I think it's just the latest incarnation of this. This is a mini recorder, and this will record in 24-bit sound, 96k, just the same as that will there, and the Zoom will, with the Zoom H6. Is a fantastic piece of kit. Now, I use this often with this external mic. This is a Sony mic. Little 1/4-inch jack, but it's a stereo mic. I've just come back from recording a lot of interviews at the an NEC show, and I use this great little handhold mic. It's got a windshield as well, or that can be a stand for your stereo mic. Fantastic little mic, that. Really, really good. Probably as good as the C1000s and as good as the Rode. Great stuff. But I don't even need to use this, because this thing comes with 2 built-in mics, one at the front, one at the back. Operation is simple. You just switch it on, click that red button there to record. As I said, it can record up to 96 kilohertz. Other options as well, or MP3 sound. There's some basic editing on there, although I'd never use it. But because it's got 2 mics, you can use it in different configurations. So you can use it as a condenser, you can use it as an omnipresent mic, as you could the big ones, and you can also use it for mid-side recording, which is a specialist technique that was pioneered in France, which is quite interesting for stereo recording. It does need a bit of processing in your computer, though, or a special plugin to decode it. But that's really quite an advanced thing for this little powerful machine. Again, takes SD cards, massive capacity. I bought this kind of, again, rather like the original Zoom, in an emergency. So I was about to walk across Scottish Highlands, backpacking, to produce a series of podcasts. A mate of mine was doing something similar at the same time on a different route, and we were recording lots of takes during the day, interviewing people we met along the way, and so on. And the day before I left, my little Eddie roll that I've been using for years broke, and I had to rush out and buy this. And I used it with my Sony mic, which I'd used before. Absolutely fantastic. It's only in the last month or so that I thought, I wonder what that sounds like if I record my guitar through it. So you stand it up like that on a table and play into it. And let me tell you, that quality of that sound is extraordinary for a little machine. Again, it doesn't have a great pronounced bass, but that's probably what you want for recording acoustic guitar. If you want to record guitar and vocals at the same time, or even multi-track a little bit with both, that may well be all you need if you're just starting off. The Zoom H2N is an extraordinary piece of kit for the money. So there you have it. That's a quick rundown of my gear. I might, if anybody's interested, I'll do another one looking at some of the plugins I use on my computer. Both kind of plugins that come with Logic, but also some of those that I bought over the years. I don't think there's much more to it than that. That's my setup. That's what I use. But again, if you're just starting out, these mini recorders might keep you happy for a long time. And if you want to invest in some proper outboard mics, the Rode mics, these C1000s, again, might last you a lifetime. Well, they will last a lifetime. It's just whether you want to push up or not. And you may well find you don't need to. So that's it. That's my setup. Thanks for watching. And no doubt I'll be back with some more videos at some point in the future.